Hello viewers, today I am going to tell you about the various systems to classify Indian rags. Since the rags replaced the ancient Jati-Gayan system, rags have been categorized differently by the music scholars of different periods. Though the present system to classify the rags is Thaat rag system, but this system was introduced in the 20th century only by the great musicologist Pandit Vishnu Narayan Bhatkhande. Prior to Bhatkhande, it was not so. If we look into the music history of 3-4 centuries back, we come to know that male rag system was in vogue in Hindustani music as well as in Carnatic music. Although with that, Stri Purush or Rag Ragini Paddhati was also prevalent in Hindustani music. Going far back, Gram Rag and Desi Rag system was in vogue. So we can say, since the rags replaced ancient Jati-Gayan system, various systems have been prevalent from time to time for the classification of rags. But before knowing about these various systems, let's know in brief what is rag or the definition of rag. Rag is the base of Indian music. In fact, Indian music is revealed through rags. In old Sanskrit texts, rag has been defined as Ranjati iti raga, which means which colors the mind is a rag. In Sanskrit text, Abhinav Rag Manjari, rag has been defined as Yoyan Dhvani Visheshato Swar Varana Vibhushita Ranjko Janachitana Sara Kathita Budhe, which means such a peculiar combination of swar and varans, having the capability of pleasing the minds of the listeners, is known as rag by the intellectuals. As I have told you earlier, in the ancient times, present rag Gayan system was not in vogue. Jati Gayan was in vogue instead of rag Gayan. The word rag has been found in Brihadeshi of Pandit Matang in 7th century for the first time. And since then, it has been defined variously by the forthcoming music scholars. Even rags have been classified differently in the different periods. In the ancient period as Gram Rag and Desi Rag classification. In the medieval period as Stri Purush rags and male rag classification, and later in Ragang Paddhati, and in the present period, currently prevalent Thaat rag system. Now let's know in brief about all these systems of rag classification. Gram Rag and Desi Rag. This was the system of ancient period. After the Jati system, Gram Rag system came into existence, which is mentioned in Brihadeshi text of Pandit Matang in 7th century. Gram Rags were produced from Jatis and were 30 in number. These were of 5 kinds, namely Shuddha, Bhinna, Gaud, Vesra and Sadharan. These 5 kinds were based upon the 5 different Gites, that is a particular style of singing. All these are mentioned in Pandit Sharang Dev Sangeet Ratnakar. Bharat, the author of Natya Shastra, had mentioned 7 kinds of Gites instead of 5. He added Bhasha and Vibhasha, 2 more Gites in that. Gram Rags were produced according to these Gites. Pandit Sharang Dev The author of Sangeet Ratnakar in 13th century has classified all the singing compositions in 10 categories, which are Gram Rag, Rag, Uprag, Bhasha, Vibhasha, Antrabhasha, Ragang, Kriyang, Upang and Bhasha. This was known as the Raga classification. We do not find the detailed description about each of the aforesaid category, and there is a lot of disagreement among the later scholars too. According to Pandit Bhatkhande, as mentioned in his Bhatkhande Sangeet Shastra Part 1, Bhashang rags were those which were created according to the popular singing styles of the particular places and not on the classical basis. Now let's know the other particular styles or the other particular styles of rag classification. Stri Purush rags. Stri Purush system of the classification of rags, or popularly known as Raga Ragini system, was prevalent in the medieval period. Even long before that, Narad, the author of Sangeet Makrand in 9th century, introduced the system of Raga Ragini instead of Gram Murchna and Jati system of the ancient times. It was accepted by many other musicians after Narad. Though in the medieval period, great music scholars like Pandit Lochan, Ahubal, Hirday Narayan Dev and others introduced the system of male rag classification, and the two totally different systems were prevailing at the same time. Yet, Stri Purush rag system lasted till 19th century. The concept of Raga Raginis or Stri Purush rags, like the families, is an interesting aspect of Indian music. H.A. Pople, the author of the Music of India, writes, "The Sangeet Darpan builds up a most fanciful theory on the northern model, and this has nominally remained the principal theory of North until today." Medieval musicologist Damodar Mishra, the author of Sangeet Darpan in 15th century, and many others popularized this concept of classification of rags on a family-based system. They classified their rags into Rag, Ragini, Putra and Putrabadhu categories. According to this classification, Rag was considered the Purush, the male or the head of the family, while Ragini was Stri or female form or the wife of that particular rag or the secondary rags. This system was also extended to Putra and Putrabadhu rags, that is son and daughter-in-laws, or we can say the derivated rags. Many musicologists of the medieval period accepted 6 principal rags for the classification, although their rags differ from one another. Each of them accepted 5 or 6 raginis, 8 putras or even 8 putrabadhus for each rag. This family-based system of the classification of Hindustani rags was so popular that it remained until the advent of the present Thaat rag system of classification. There were differences of opinion among the musicologists of the medieval period, but amongst those, 4 mats or opinions, or we can say schools of Stri Purush rags, arose predominantly. These were: number 1, Shiv Mat or Someshwar Mat; number 2, Bharat Mat; number 3, Kalinath Mat; Number 4. Hanuman or Hanumantamat. In all the above said schools, the manner they classified rag ragnis differed from each other. As I have stated earlier, all of them accepted 6 principal rags or the main rags and either 30 or 36 ragnis. 6 fundamental rags were based upon the seasons. In Sangeet Darpan, Pandit Damodar Mishra mentioned 6 rags and 36 ragnis. The 6 main rags were Shri, Vasant, Bhairav, Pancham, Megh and Natnarayan. Each of the 6 rags was affiliated with specific 6 ragnis. Now let's know about the other popular school of rag ragnis which followed Sangeet Darpan. The first is Shivmat or Someshwarmat. Like Sangeet Darpan, the 6 principal rags of Someshwarmat were Shri, Basant, Pancham, Megh, Bhairav and Natnarayan. Besides these, each rag had 6 ragnis and 8 putra rags. According to Bharatmat, 6 main rags were Bhairav, Malkons, Hindol, Deepak, Shri and Megh. Each of these rags had 5 ragnis, 8 putras and 8 patruvadhu rags. According to Kalinath Mat, 6 fundamental rags were the same as Someshwar Mat. But there was a difference between 6 ragnis and 8 putra rags of each rag. Hanuman or Hanumantamat accepted the 6 principal rags of Bharatmat, but their 5 ragnis, 8 putra and 8 putra vadhus of each rag differed from Bharatmat. It is evident that all the above said 4 popular schools accepted 6 principal rags, though Shiv and Kalinath Mat accepted 36 ragnis, whereas Bharat and Hanuman Mat accepted 30 ragnis. There was disagreement among these 4 popular schools of Stri Purush rag. Moreover, it was not clear what was the base for accepting 5 or 6 ragnis for each rag. So, with the course of time, it was quite possible that differences of opinions arose, and this system started fading out. In 1813, Muhammad Raza, a musician from Patna, in his text Nagmat-e-Asfi in Urdu, strongly condemned the system of rag ragnis and declared this system of classification as unscientific and meaningless, as there was no affinity between the rags and its related ragnis. Muhammad Raza, on one hand, condemned this system, but on the other hand, he himself suggested a new system of 6 rags and 36 ragnis. Pandit Bhatkhande later proved even the system of Muhammad Raza as unscientific and introduced his third rag system for the classification of Hindustani rags. In the medieval periods, important musical treatises like Rag Tarangani by Pandit Lochan and Rag Tatvibodh by Srinivas Pandit, they wholly rejected the Rag Ragini system and put forward a more studied system for the rag classification, which was known as male rag system. This male rag classification was totally different from Rag Ragini classification. Once Rag Ragini system was proved unscientific and unsystematic, it was no longer used frequently. So we can say that Stri Purush Rag or Rag Ragini was a system for the classification of Hindustani rags which was prevalent in the medieval period, that is almost from 14th to 19th century. The influence of Rag Ragini system was so profound that this had been a great source of inspiration to the painters of the old Ragmala tradition. Ragmala paintings were created in the most schools of Indian paintings in 15th, 16th and 17th centuries, showing Rag and Putras in Purush or male and Raginis in Stri or female images. Though this system had influenced and inspired the painters immensely, yet with the advent of Ragang Paddhati of Narayan Moreshwar Khare and That Rag Paddhati of Pandit Vishnu Narayan Bhatkhande, this system was no longer used frequently. The next is male rag system. As stated earlier, male rag system for the classification became popular in the medieval period. The scholars of the north and the south both adopted male rag system to classify their rags in males or the parent scales. Pandit Ahobal, the author of Sangeet Parijat in 17th century, has defined male as Mele Swar Samuh Syad Rag Vyanjan Shaktiman, which means male is a combination of swars or notes which is capable of producing rags. In other words, we can say that the present thought or the parent scale was known as male or male kartas by the medieval music scholars. In the medieval period, great music scholars of the north as well as of the south have mentioned about males in their musical treatises. Northern musicologists like Pandit Lochan, Hriday Narayan Dev, Pandit Ahobal and Srinivas Pandit, and the southern music scholars like Pandit Ramamatya, Pandit Somnath, Pandit Venkatmukhi and many others have mentioned about males in their texts. They classified all the prevalent rags of their time in the males. Though the number of males accepted by all of them differed from each other. Male rag system of classification was adopted by the many music scholars in the medieval periods. It is also true that the Rag Ragini system too was prevailing parallel to this system in Hindustani music, but at the same time we find male rag system in many important musical treatises of north as well as of south. I will discuss about this system in detail in my next lecture on rag classification. To sum up today's lecture, we can say that Gram Rag or Desi Rag system was in vogue for the classification of rags in the ancient period. In the medieval period, Stri Purush Rag and male rag classification was in vogue. Stri Purush classification was discarded as it was proved unscientific and unsystematic. Male rag system was adopted by many music scholars of the north as well as of the south. But with the advent of That rag system of Pandit Bhatkhande in the 20th century, this system too was no longer used frequently. Thank you.